Until now, we've been in the Transform mode of the Edit Subdivision tool. This is the main mode of the tool, and the one you'll be using the most often, but there are many other modes that have completely different functions. If you modified your sphere beyond recognition while experimenting with the Transform mode, go ahead and delete that Subdivision object now, and create a new one via the same method, double-clicking on the Edit Subdivision tool and choosing a 3 cm sphere primitive, then placing it in the document to start fresh from. Return to something close to an isometric view as we did before with the flyover tool, if need be. Click the second mode of the Edit Subdivision tool, Crease Mode. Recall how we said the cage just generally controls the location of the geometry? Creasing an edge, face, or vertex allows the cage to control the shape exactly. Click on the bottom left front edge of the cage. See how the geometry seems to have gotten heavier, being pulled in that direction? It doesn't stick exactly to the edge, but this is because we're only creasing toward the center of the edge, not the entire edge. To have it increase along the entire edge, crease toward the 2 vertex points on either end of the edge as well. Click those both now, like so. Notice how it can become hard to see the surface with the default color. Let's change and choose a fill with a nice solid blue from the attributes palette for now as well. There we go, much better. See how the crease now fits exactly along the edge? There are other ways to control this as well. Click the same 2 vertices and the bottom edge again to remove the creasing. Then, click on the center of the right front face of the cage instead. This one action gives us more of a bullet shape than a sphere. See how it adheres to the center of the cage face, but not to the square edges or corners? Click each of the corners on that same cage side with the Crease mode as well. Now, that side of the object adheres to the face of the cage completely, as you can see. Now, click in the center of the same face again, and you get this. As you can already start to see, this tool makes it extremely easy to create complex and organic geometry that would take much longer via traditional modeling tools. The power of this tool is fairly obvious within just a few minutes of using it. Before moving on to the next node, click each of those corner vertices again to restore our sphere. Then, click the third mode of the Edit Subdivision tool, Face Extrude Mode. Click on the left face of the sphere's cage, and pull this face outward slightly. Then click again. This mode seems similar to when we use the Transform mode to pull on a face, and it is, with one important difference. See how the cage has changed? We effectively duplicated the cage face that we clicked on and moved it outward, altering our cage from a simple cube to a series of connected cage faces. If you then click on the back right of the side of the subdivision and pull it to the right, then click again, you'll see that we've extruded the face out in a completely different direction to create a sort of smoothed L shape. Now, click on the top face on the right side of the subdivision. Then, drag it upward and click again. See how the cage becomes increasingly more complex? Extrude Face allows you to add more cage control geometry, thus letting you create a more complex object. The first 2 modes were more about modifying the existing cage. This mode and the rest are all about manipulating what that cage is made up of directly. For a quick display of how this works, return to the first mode of the Edit Subdivision tool, Transform. Then click on the center right edge and try moving it around. See how the geometry attempts to obey all the cage faces, vertices, and edges? As you move this edge in and out, it tried to keep the rest of the object where it was, but move the geometry closest to the cage element you're altering. The more cage edges you add, the more control you have over your shape. The other modes can help with this as well. Let's continue. The fourth mode, Face Split, allows you to create more cage vertices within a single face. Click once on the bottom left front face of this object, and you'll see a square appear. Move the cursor in so that the square created is about half the size of the original face. Then click again. We've created a smaller face within the boundary of the larger face. We'll take a moment to showcase how this changes the transform behavior. Return to the third mode of the tool, Extrude Face, and click inside this smaller face. Then pull it outward towards you a bit, then click again. See how the smaller face results in a smaller area being extruded? This is made possible by splitting a face with the Face Split mode. To create a larger face, you would simply select the edges around the face and then pull them outward with the Transform tool instead. Use Command Z on a Mac or Control Z on Windows twice to undo the last two operations. Undo is the simplest way to revert a change on a subdivision object, rather than trying to manually push the geometry back where you had it. Activate the fifth mode of the Edit Subdivision tool, Face Hole Mode, and click on the lower front 4 faces of our subdivision here. Now, use the flyover tool and orbit around the object a bit to see what we just did. Face Hole Mode removes all surface geometry from the selected face. However, it's not the same as deleting it, which we'll go over in just a second. It hides the faces, and they can be recalled later. This mode only works on faces, as its name implies. Any holes you make via this tool can be closed again with the same tool, but a quick warning. You can also delete faces by selecting them with the Transform mode and pressing Delete or Backspace. But then, only undoing will restore this face. Face Hole mode cannot restore faces removed via deletion, so we advise using Face Hole rather than simply deleting the face unless necessary. Go ahead and return to Face Hole mode, and then close these 4 faces back up. Then move on to the 6th mode of the Edit Subdivision tool, Edge Extend mode. You'll notice that if you try to click on any edges, faces, or vertices, you cannot. This is because this tool does not work on closed edges, only surfaces that have no face on one side of them. So, return to Face Hole mode briefly and create a hole in the bottom left of the shape, like so. Now, return to Edge Extend mode and click on the far left edge of the cage and pull it out to the left. See how that's not possible? The Edge Extend mode will not work on edges that are just hidden with Face Hole mode, as that tool only hides the underlying geometry. It doesn't remove it completely. Edge Extension only lets you extend edges that do not connect to any other edges. Since Face Hole just hides them, that doesn't qualify for an unconnected face. Use the Face Hole mode to re-enable the face on the bottom front left of the object. Then select that same face with the first mode, Transform, and then delete it by pressing Delete or Backspace. Now, with the Edge Extend mode active again, you'll see that you can grab these edges and extend them, much in the same way Extrude Face mode works. It adds new cage geometry to your model each time you use it. Undo back to the solid figure with no holes in it before we proceed. Activate the last of the main modes in the Edit Subdivision tool, Edge Split mode. Click twice on the upper, center 2 edges of this subdivision. See how the first click picks the edge to split, and the second sets the point along that edge. See how the split goes all the way through the subdivision, wrapping around it entirely? This is another method of adding more control to the cage. Also note that our figure has a little more definition once we've done this, as we've added more cage vertices, and it's now a little more squared off where it was lumpier and rounder before. That'll do it for the basic usage of modes of Edit Subdivision. In the next sections, we'll take a more practical look at creating geometry with this tool.